My name is Litaro Mutari. I'm the manager of the institutional repository at the University of Johannesburg. And today I'm going to be talking about balancing openness and privacy and just managing sensitive content in the UJ institutional repository. So, for a brief introduction, the University of Johannesburg Institutional Repository is an open access platform that supports all our scholarly affiliated research outputs, which are journal articles, books, book chapters, and theses and dissertations. And then the repository has recently just added sensitive content, which is examination papers that didn't form part of the all scholarly outputs. We needed those to be stored in a place on a system where we can just incorporate restricted access on it, and our repository was the perfect place to host them. So to comply with the university rules, privacy protections are applied to this sensitive collection. So this presentation will focus on how we balance the openness with privacy, particularly with restricting these exam papers that we put on the institutional repository. So the institutional repository is accessible on a platform called Explorer, and then that's the URL. It's called UJ. It's called UJ content, and then it supports visibility of all the UJ-affiliated research as mentioned, and then it's an open access repository, meaning that all the research outputs that we have are accessible by anyone around the world, around the globe, and to enhance collaboration and knowledge sharing. And as part of visibility, we are also harvested by PQDT, Google Scholar, and Google and other harvesting platforms. So these examinations form part of that collection, but they just added into a group. Once you go to the institutional repository, you won't be able to access the exam papers, but you have to then log in to find them. So we had privacy challenges with the exam papers. Before we had our exam papers put on the institutional repository, we were also hosting them on an open access platform called Figshare. The DVC then said to us, we want exam papers open access. Everybody around the world, visibility, should be able to access our exam papers. We've got nothing to hide, so everybody can see them. And then we had this challenge that after some time, we found out that exam papers were being accessed by other universities, and there was a local university around Johannesburg that was also using the same exam papers, and the students were getting high marks because when we load the exam papers, we also put memorandums. So then they called us again, please stop with the open access of exam papers and find a solution. So when we had to look for the solution, we had to find a platform where we will then put the exam papers and then log them in. And then we remembered, okay, we had Open Athens and we had SML access login restricted. So where do we now then have to put the exam papers? And then when we looked around, we thought, we'll find that the institutional repository was a perfect place where this process can be integrated. So currently the exam papers are only accessed by affiliated UJ staff and students through SML login. So the exam papers are stored onto that URL. When you click on the UJ repository, I'll just show you how it looks. Then there's a collection called exam papers. Then you will have to sign in onto that collection to be able to see all the PDFs of the exam papers as well as the memorandums. And then we don't have all models of the exam papers, but we have majority of the exam papers that are found online. It's only the lecturers that give us these exam papers. So if they don't give them to us, we don't have them. And then if the students query, then we let them know that we can only provide the exam papers that we have. So this exam paper retention follows a schedule that balances usefulness with security, similar to practices of other institutions. In other institutions, you find that all exam papers are in portals where no one can access except if you are a student. So when we started with this process, then we found out about SML, login access, which is a security assertion markup language, and it's federated standard that allows users to access this with their university credentials. So Open Athens, uses SML login access, and then it is tiered access where only staff, students, and researchers of the university can then access these exam papers. So UJ uses this through the open access to secure the restricted access. You have to use your UJ affiliated email and then the password. So at UJ, every month, users are supposed to change their password. So if you don't reset your password for that month, if you last resetted your password last month and you try to log in onto the website, it won't allow you. So you have to keep on changing the password, and then you will be able to log in using this slimless single sign-on. So the system ensures that only the UJ people now can access. So no one now can access the exam papers. So how does this work? So the users, especially the students, go to the University of Johannesburg repository. If they don't sign in, they will click on the exam paper, which will say you need to sign in for you to log in. And then once you click that sign in, then a pop-up sign-in platform will then appear, where you will then put in your email address and your password. So this is just how it looks. This is the front page of the institutional repository, and then for you to access the exam papers, you have to click here. Once you click exam papers, then it will say for you already signed in, you need to sign into this collection, or you can read here and click in the sign in. If you just manage to get exam papers on the internet, then you won't be able to see the PDF until you sign in. Once you are prompted to sign in, this is going to be the login interface for you to sign in. From that organization, you can choose if you are a staff or if you're a student, and then you will be able to log in. We also use Open Athens to access our databases. So all the databases will have Open Athens under the name of the database for you to be able to know that you will require Open Athens credentials for you to sign in. So I just use this example of PQDT where our bases are, that you will have to log in via Open Athens. So getting this solution has benefited us by making sure that privacy is protected, and it supports the role of tiered access. Now only staff, students, and affiliated researchers can sign in. It also ensures compliance with ethics and copyright requirements, and also enhances the trust of our institutional repository services, and also the trust of the work of our university as well. And the benefits and best practices is that restricted access then helps maintain exam paper integrity. With our exam papers being out there, it was compromising our integrity as well and ethics. I'm sure some of the people maybe in other universities, when they saw our exam papers, like, oh, is that what UJ is setting? I think this is low standard, or maybe this is high standard. So this has helped us a lot. And then the best practices include clear metadata, opt-in submission processes, and regular content review. So UJ approach reflects ethical research data management and support openness where appropriate. So openness for us now is strictly for our research outputs, thesis dissertations, books, book chapters, and articles, and not the exam papers. And then in conclusion, the institutional repository balances open access to research outputs using SML-protected privacy only for exam papers. And this model supports responsible openness while also safeguarding the sensitive materials that we have. The future improvements that we may have in future might be to just change some of the metadata that we have onto our institutional repository that we are working on. But yeah, so far we are happy with the basic that we have started with, and it's yielding best results because we haven't had any issues ever since. And yeah, so in conclusion, true openness in the IR is not only about unrestricted access, but it's also about providing right access securely, ethically, and responsibly. So thank you. Are there any questions?
I've got a question. I saw on one of your slides it mentioned that the database list works better on mobile or tablet.
Sorry?
Might come up. On one of the slides it mentions at the top, there, so it says, if you're using a tablet or mobile phone, the database list will be easier to use. Is that because most of your users are on mobiles and tablets?
Yes, most of the students are using mobile devices more than them having laptops. I mean, we have a high rate of students who are not from families. So because we accept a lot of students, so not all of them have these best devices, but we see that a lot of them now, because of technology shift, it's easier for just a basic student to have a smartphone. So it's easier for them to also access these databases on their phones. Yeah.
My question is related to the teams, the people and the teams that you work with to deliver this solution. Were you working closely with other people within the library, or was it other people within the enterprise IT? I'm just curious as to what was the group of people that worked together to deliver the solution?
We worked closely with the IT team, and not specifically the library IT team, but the university IT team. They were working together with the repository managers as well, because like I said, we use Explorer, so they were working closely with Clarivate and the IT guys so that they know how to merge their APIs so that once a person clicks that, then it can redirect them to then sign in. So I was just the middle person who was joining the teams together, because I'm the manager of the repository. However, most of the technical things, I wasn't involved. Yes.
Thanks. Hi, thank you. Wouldn't you agree that it should be up to the user to decide what is sensitive and what is not, and what is restricted and what is not, rather than the organization?
In this case, it cannot be the user who decides, because already if you had the background, we were in trouble of our exam papers then being used by other people. So we had to mitigate that. The exam papers on their own are not dangerous or they're not risky. That's why initially they were out there. However, with these outside cases that are beyond our control, we had to find a way to then just gather these examination papers to then only be accessed by the students. So the students now and the university people are the ones that still see this work, and it's not sensitive, it's not anything, it's not dangerous, it's still for them, it's just not for everybody else. It's not for the outside people. So, yeah.
Hi, Andrew Brown from Swansea University. Just a quick question. Does the data from your institutional repository, do you use it in research assessment exercises in your country?
Yes, they do, especially with the theses and dissertations. They are mostly used by the students. Once you register for your PhD or for your master's, your supervisors then just ask you to go and check all the previously done work. So obviously there is bits of and pieces of the work that they want you, especially, you know, with researchers, they send you to see the work that they have previously done so that they can continue citing their work and their other students to build their citation profiles and their visibilities and discoverabilities. Yeah, so they use them a lot. And also on the researcher side, having all their work onto the institutional repository, we notice this every beginning of the year. It's also used by the institution itself to get researchers promoted, like the amount of work that you have deposited on the IR. Yeah.
I have one final question, and it relates to the session that we're about to go into. I'm just interested, what was the biggest challenge that you had to overcome to actually deliver the solution?
The biggest challenge that we had to overcome, despite that the exam papers, well, that was the biggest challenge of all, that the exam papers were out there. We couldn't pinpoint where exactly. We were just working by hearsay to say, this institution has been known to have used this and that and that. The only challenge was then finding out where exactly should we begin to close this. It was really a challenge because we didn't really know which platform at first were we going to host this. And the previous platform that these exam papers were was not compatible with then plugins of having this SML linked to it. So it took us a lot of time to get to this conclusion. I think this whole drive took us a year and a half to really find the solution. And it was challenging because the VC was on our neck. This needs to be out. So that was the biggest challenge. Yeah.
That's great. Oh, I've got the microphone. I can walk around. That's great. Thank you very much. Thank you.